Hello, I'm talking about lessons learned from Hurricane Katrina and the response to the hurricane that informs future crisis management plans. So Hurricane Katrina struck in 2005 in the Gulf Coast, just east of New Orleans, Louisiana. The hurricane caused levee breaches within the city of New Orleans and surrounding communities. Massive flooding destroyed much of the residential and commercial areas. More than 1,800 lives were lost. Damage estimated over $108 billion, with economic cost reaching as high as $250 billion, making this the costliest natural disaster in the history of the United States. When the hurricane was coming in, the mayor of New Orleans vacillated in his decision to give the evacuation order, only doing so the day before the hurricane actually struck. Many people did not evacuate because they either had no transportation, or they were unable to leave for some other reason, or they simply refused to leave. Many of those who did not evacuate needed to be rescued from their homes and housed at the nearby Superdome and New Orleans Convention Center. However, neither of these locations were prepared for the number of people that they would need to shelter, or for the social issues that would arise. The crowd being housed had insufficient food, water, and restroom facilities and bedding. There were rumors that there was violence, looting, and criminal activity happening within the evacuation centers, making rescue personnel hesitant to enter the facilities. Despite planning for a disaster, there was poor leadership, poor communication, and systems that could not be accessed because of the flood. Many first responders had evacuated with their families, and those who remained could not get to the supplies due to washed out roads, due to helicopters being used to rescue people instead of being able to fly supplies in. Eventually, the Coast Guard and a group of people with small boats came to the rescue to support the aid of removing people who were stranded in their homes. The lessons learned that I'm focusing on in this case study is on the use of the emergency backup plan and adequate leadership. Based on double loop learning, as has been cited in Crandall et al. 2021, double loop learning is learning after an event that changes the basic underlying organizational norms, culture, and cognitive agreement. Specifically, we can learn from the failure at the executive leadership level and the lack of systems responding in a timely manner. To improve the crisis management plan, there needs to be an understanding at the executive leadership level of state and federal systems that disaster response must take place immediately. There should be a process in place whereby leadership will investigate and prepare to deploy support immediately. Support services should be ready to go and on standby, waiting for the signal to deploy or stand down. The second part is having a backup plan. So you may have the first initial plan for response, but if that plan does not succeed, or there's things that happen that won't allow it to actually come to fruition, then there should be a backup plan, and that's where maybe some other systems could come into play. I think that much has been learned from the Katrina disaster and in the disaster and crisis management sector. However, while lessons have been learned and changes applied, it is important that we continue to reflect on each and every crisis situation for new learning that will come out of it. Thank you very much.